Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me again, Alistair McKenzie. Alistair, it's funny to be disappointed after a draw against AC Milan.
Yeah, and especially a draw where you've got your equaliser in the, what was it, 94th minute. But that tells you everything you need to know about this game, really, doesn't it? A game that Lazio really, considering all things, should have taken 3 points from.
Okay, so we can close it here, guys. Good night. Have a nice day and talk to you next match. No, seriously, Alistair, it's... I don't know. I was thinking it's strange to be frustrated after scoring in the last second of the match, but unfortunately, this is how I feel. Lazio came into this match as a favorite against AC Milan. AC Milan that had a lot of players missing, and you would expect Lazio to take advantage of that. We can say Lazio played better, but at the end, without injury time, Milan was ahead 1-0, and it looked like Lazio was going to lose another match against a top team.
Yes, I mean, not just lose a match, but really kind of throw a match away. I mean, it was set to be, if that had ended up in a defeat, it would have been the least forgivable of what would have been the 5, I suppose. Given the way in which Lazio controlled the majority of that match, but also considering, like you mentioned, the problems that Milan team are facing. I mean, we had six first team players out injured, but more importantly, 3 of them were centre.
Okay, we have a little bit of problems with Alistair tonight. His connection is not working properly. So, but yeah, I agree with what Alistair was saying. Milan has so many problems in the central defense tonight. So many players out. Romagnoli is probably the most important player they were missing there in the defense, and still Lazio couldn't take advantage of that. Now, it's true, to be honest, that in the first 20 minutes of the match, Lazio was playing really, really well. We had 2-3 very good chances. We never, in the first half, I don't remember Donnarumma doing some important saves. I think he hardly touched the ball in the first half. But, and then afterwards, when AC Milan finally had a chance, the match changed completely. It reminds me a little bit of what happened in the derby. I don't know if guys, if you remember, Lazio was dominating, but then after the first chance Dzeko had, the match changed completely, and Lazio stopped playing aggressive like before. It's a little bit happened what happened to at the derby, and that's the most frustrating thing, I think, because it was another match where you could think that Lazio was favorite and start very well again, which was really positive. But then after the first chance of Milan, everything changed. Lazio wasn't dangerous as before, and instead Milan, even though had so many players missing, let's not forget Biglia as well was out, Higuain again was out, and still the match changed completely, which was really disappointed for us seeing Lazio change completely how the team was playing. So I don't know if it's a problem of mentality. My belief is that in the key matches, in the matches where you play against top team, the quality players, the top players are the one that makes the difference. And again, I thought that today the top players of Lazio didn't make an impact. I thought Milinkovic-Savic was playing well. I want to hear what you have to say about that, because I thought Milinkovic-Savic was playing well again, not incredibly well like last year, but good enough for today. And I was a little bit surprised to see Inzaghi calling Milinkovic off. I was surprising to see that change. I don't know if you agree with that, but seeing Milinkovic going out at that point of the match, I was a little bit surprised. Inzaghi said that it was due to the yellow card, but it's a midfielder. It's not a defensive midfielder like Badel that you say, he's a dangerous player who can get another second yellow card. I thought that's not the reason why Milinkovic was benched. Alistair, I think you're back. Were you surprised about the substitution of Milinkovic-Savic in the second half?
Yeah, sorry about that. Leaving you to try and fill some space by yourself there. Milinkovic-Savic, yeah, I think it was, because we're not used to seeing him coming off during games generally, especially that kind of part of the game. And I suppose the fact that he came off for Lukaku and the move was to put Lulic into the centre made it even more surprising. But I don't know, I mean, it wasn't his best game, but yeah, like you mentioned there, he was on a booking, and I think that Inzaghi was so kind of terrified of the idea of somehow ending up with 10 men in that game that he was willing to make a bit of a risky move by taking off one of his potential match winners in order to keep 11 players on the pitch. But I don't know, I'm not sure I agree with that way of looking at it. I think that's a bit overly cautious, because you can trust your players. He's been on the pitch already for quite some time without getting a second yellow. He doesn't pick up an awful lot of yellow cards as it is. So, I think he just wanted to get some pace on the flank from Lukaku and see where that would take us.
But in a situation like that, when you're pushing, taking off Milinkovic-Savic, it's not a very smart idea. You're losing someone very, very good with a header, someone that can, it's very good in the penalty box. He can be really dangerous. And you put in one like Lukaku that is good in putting the ball in the box, but you're taking out the possible receiver. I thought it could have been because Milinkovic-Savic had some issue 2 weeks ago, and so maybe he wasn't fully fit. But if that's not the reason, then I was a little bit surprised about Simone Inzaghi decision there. And Alistair, what I was saying when you weren't there is, I think that these big matches against quality team are your top players that are usually deciding those type of matches. And Lazio top players, again, didn't perform very well today. Immobile was quiet. Luis Alberto did a couple of assists, but not that much. And Milinkovic-Savic was probably the best of the three, came out before the end of the match. So one reason why Lazio didn't win, I think it was that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I agree with you in that hierarchy, to be honest. I think Alberto and Immobile both had pretty decent games. Particularly Alberto, and I think he really shone in that opening kind of 20-minute periods where Lazio were immediately from the start looking really strong, creating a lot of chances, and I think he already, before we came on air here, shared some of the statistics about his performance, which kind of demonstrated that he was being far more effective than he has in the past. I think it's one of the most promising performances we've seen from Alberto this season, to be honest. He did fade as the game went on, as did Lazio generally until that point. But I think that the way he was connecting the lines, and he was moving the ball intelligently and incisively in a way that he hasn't really been this season. He's kind of been a bit invisible far too often, but today I thought he was actually making a far bigger impact on the game and creating a lot more chances. So I was really encouraged by that, and thought it was a bit of a shame for him to go off. I think Inzaghi did say in the press conference as well that he did think about leaving Alberto on and playing Correa alongside him, but ultimately I think he just didn't have the bottle to go for it.
I think Luis Alberto played better than the last time he played this season, and the stats I tweeted show it. The problem I feel is that he's not that close to Ciro Immobile, and even though Milan was playing with 3 men's defense, I felt that Immobile was too alone and was easy for the other team to mark Ciro Immobile if he was too alone there in the box. So that's one of the reason of my thought about Luis Alberto. And then the performance of Correa. I think Alexander Mikkelsen tweeted, and I agree with him. He said, apart from the excellent goal, I don't think Correa played a good match. That's what I'm trying to say and did from the first post. But Correa scored, it was a vital goal. And it feels like every time he comes in, he changed the match. So I think like every other Lazio fan, we are curious to see what happens if he starts a match.
Yeah. I don't think I do agree with the idea of him not having played a good match. I mean, he wasn't on for all that long, and he scored the equalising goal. So he's really done his job. I mean, he was brought on to do what nobody else had managed to do, which was find a way through that Milan defence, and he did. And, looking at the goal, I don't think there's... Maybe Ciro Immobile is the only player on the pitch at that time who could possibly have scored a goal like that. It was a really good goal,
Yeah, because I was at home.
It required a lot. It required a lot of technique and composure to actually finish like that, though, in a way, and he demonstrated that in a way that other players hadn't, and that was a major problem for Lazio tonight. Was when they get into the final third and get into those goal-scoring positions, was either making the wrong decisions or failing to have the composure to actually finish off the chances. So, yeah, I think it'd be harsh to criticise Correa's performance after coming on, because Milan were there with a plan tonight. They were there to defend, and if you can remember Patrick Cutrone touching the ball, then you've got a better memory than me. But Donnarumma was wasting time already in the first half. They were there, 5 men behind the ball in defence, 5-4-1. I mean, it was a very, very defensive setup. I'm not criticising them for that, because I think with the injury problems they had, it was understandable. But it's not easy for a player like Correa, who's a player who thrives in space, and his greatest assets are pace and the way he can beat players. He's not going to be able to find much space to use his pace, and he's not going to be able to find his way through many players when they're all camped behind the ball in that way. So it was a very different kind of game for him to be brought onto. We're used to sometimes seeing him brought on when games are a bit more stretched and he has a bit more space, but tonight he didn't have that, and he still managed to make a decisive impact. So I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, as you were saying, AC Milan played a very defensive match. I thought even in the first half, after the first 10 minutes when they really struggled to stop Lazio, I thought they played very well defensively and tried, obviously, to defend with 11 men, or pretty much 10 with Cutrone left alone in front. So it wasn't easy for Correa, but the goal he scored, I think, really, it's incredible. It wasn't easy at all. I mean, watch it again. It was really, really difficult to score. To control the ball and to keep it low, I think it was really, really, really top class. Vildas Glavas, Inzaghi really needs to give a proper chance to Correa. The last year, LA won't come back anytime soon. It's clear. Those drop points against top club will bite us in the ass when the season is over. Just like last year. Can't say Simone learned his lesson. Learned his lesson. Yeah, I think Correa will get a chance. I hope so. Again, I think Luis Alberto played better than in the other performance. But yeah, probably now Correa give us something more than Luis Alberto gives.
Yeah, I mean, if you're picking on form, he is the form player to be picked from the start, and I think he's demonstrated enough by now to show that he's more than an impact player, which was a suggestion some people made before, is that that's his best use is off the bench as a kind of impact sub. But I think tonight's, the goal he scored tonight goes to show that he's not just that. And yeah, how much more can he do to deserve a place? There's very there's very little more we can ask from him than what he's given in the limited opportunities he's had. So yeah, I do think a lot of it perhaps comes down to the fact that Inzaghi does still have faith that he can get back to that level. Alberto can get back to that level from last season. Now, I don't know, it's hard to make a judgment really on how realistic that is, because we don't know the extent of Alberto's injury problems. We know he's got a problem with pubalgia and what that involves, so he's in more discomfort than he would have been last season. But yeah, I think that while he's shown promise tonight, he's still just not playing nearly at the same level as Correa. So they really have to go up against each other. And yeah, well, I think Correa has to really be the number one choice at this stage.
Again, Inzaghi didn't say nothing about Luis Alberto injury situation. He said that this month he trained every day and he trained really well. So he was happy and said he's getting back to his top form. I don't know what to say about this thing. It's not only Luis Alberto, and this was something I wanted to mention, because Lucas Leiva wasn't today on the pitch. He wasn't called because he had a little problems. A lot of website and newspaper said that Leiva got injured against Sassuolo when he rushed back in the starting 11. But Inzaghi yesterday in the press conference said that he got injured last Tuesday at the same place where he got injured against Olympique Marseille. Now, normally I would trust the manager when he said these things, but as he's avoiding to say that Luis Alberto is injured, then I don't know if I believe Simone Inzaghi and really Leiva got injured during the training, or the newspapers that said he got injured during the Sassuolo match.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but I mean, regardless, it does at least appear to not be too serious. So he should be available again soon. And that's one big difference from last season, is that when you take him out of the team, now we've actually got pretty good stand-ins. And that's another guy I wanted to talk about tonight, was Milan Badel, because we've not had an awful lot of chances to see him in action this season, and tonight he got a chance, and I was impressed by him. I thought he did well. I mean, it was quite funny. I thought that he was reminding me quite a lot of Lucas Biglia, his style. He's quite slow. He's not in a hurry to do anything, but he's a very tidy player, and he positions himself well, and he controls the ball well, and kind of dictates things from a deep position. But that was all happening. I was kind of thinking of these comparisons to Biglia as all the fans around me were basically singing Biglia, Biglia Vaffanculo. So that was a very popular chant today. I don't even know if Biglia was there, but yeah.
Hey, those words.
Anyway.
There are kids watching listening to our podcast. Come on.
Yeah, but they don't speak Italian. Well, who knows?
Yeah. It was funny because some on Twitter said that Badel didn't play well. I thought he played great. Like Kilkito tweeters thought Badel was excellent today. I agree. I thought especially on the defensive side, he was really good. He recovered a lot of balls. Obviously, he's not a playmaker. He's not a regista as Cataldi was, etc. But I thought he had a very good game, and it was funny because at Lazio channel he said after the match that Milan goal was his fault. he was a little bit lazy and didn't recover on Kessie, that was alone when he shot on target. So he said the AC Milan goal was his fault. And it's strange to hear a player say that, especially because no one thought that it was his fault. Well, Milan was really lucky to have that deflection. So yeah, I thought he played well, and I think by far his best performance with Lazio. He was really unlucky that every time he had to play, he was injured or recovering from an injury or didn't have enough time to train. So I think it was a very positive performance from Badel.
Yeah, definitely, and it's good options in there now because of the way that Cataldi played when he came in, and I think it's nice to have other options because Lucas still hasn't, he doesn't get as much criticism, but he's not reached the level he was at last season, in my opinion, either yet. Not to the extent of someone like Alberto or Milinkovic-Savic, whose level has dropped quite significantly, but I don't think Lucas has dropped off that badly. I just don't think he's been quite as influential as he was in a lot of games last season. So it's good to have alternatives, and also, obviously, to be able to rotate him out of the team for European games, for example, like the one coming up on Thursday.
Yep. Inzaghi said in the press conference yesterday that he's going to rotate the strikers, so who didn't play today will play next Sunday. Now, I don't know if this means that Rossi and Pedro Neto, that are the only one who didn't play today, are going to start, or that Casado and Correa will start next Thursday. I hope the first, to be honest with you, but I feel it's going to be really difficult to see it happen. As Alistair don't like it, I won't talk about the referee today, but if you want to know my thoughts, you can see my interaction with Patrick Bowman on Twitter about Banti's referee.
We can talk about the referee if you want.
No, it's useless. But what do you think about Lazio struggling, needing the 3 points, and instead of Berisha that we're all looking forward, Inzaghi comes call Lukaku instead of him. Again, I have to admit that I didn't understand very well the substitution. Correa was the right choice. Well, I thought he would start today, but yeah, I'm not convinced about the Inzaghi choices with plenty of option on the bench today.
Yeah, well, did it not kind of remind you of last season where you get to 60 minutes in a match and there you'd have Lukaku waiting to come on almost every week? I think just the Lukaku, he's very direct, as we know. He's got a lot of pace and strength, and given that Milan didn't make any substitutions and that they were playing with two players out of position really on that right hand side, Abate on the side of a back three and then Calabria on the side of midfield. Perhaps he just wanted to throw in such a kind of powerful, fast, direct player to try and cause more problems to them as they tired, and get at them a bit down the sides, because coming through the middle wasn't really getting us anywhere. We were having a few problems breaking them down. I thought Kessié and Bakayoko did a pretty decent job of kind of tidying things up in the middle of the pitch there. So yeah, I think that was perhaps his thinking behind it, was just trying to get a bit more impetus on the sides, because I thought Marasic did a pretty good job of that today, actually. Marasic was quite a potent attacking force and got himself into some very good positions.
You know what's the problem today? I don't feel there's a player who was disappointed today. You not go and say, Wallace was terrible today, that's why we didn't win the match. I thought overall they all played well, or at least decent, not amazingly well. We said that Ciro Immobile, for me, didn't play that well. I thought we were a little bit too slow, especially after the first 10 minutes, and this gave the chance to Milan to regroup all the time. Gattuso prepared the match just defending in 10 men and then hoping in a counter-attack and a little bit of luck like they had in the goal. But I don't think that Gattuso beat Inzaghi tactically. I thought Lazio was very slow, and you were saying about Badel, who's, he's a little bit slow moving the ball. I think that was one of the biggest problems Lazio have today. Lazio should have been faster moving around the ball, and too often you see the players pass the ball back to the defenders and back to Strakosha. And this gives times to the other team to regroup.
Yeah, they were applying a press in the midfield. They were happy to sit in their own half, and as soon as Lazio stepped foot in that half, they would put pressure on. And yeah, to get around the press, what you need to be able to do is basically take 2 touches to get around players, or 1 touch, 2 touches, and move the ball quickly into space, and all of a sudden you're in behind. And that wasn't really happening so much. I think that's just generally a problem, though, and has been for a while. I mean, I made the comparison between Badel and Biglia, and I remember it being the same issue when Biglia was at the base of that midfield. He would still be getting criticised of being too slow and moving the ball too slowly back then. So, yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, I still think, though, that Lazio didn't, one thing that Inzaghi was talking about in there tonight was, somebody had one of the journalists had kind of brought up the idea of the kind of construction of the moves not being right, and he wasn't very happy about that, and said that the execution, he agreed, wasn't good enough, but actually the construction he was very happy with. And I would agree with that. I mean, I think that Lazio created more than enough chances, so you can't, in my mind, really possibly have an argument for Gattuso outsmarting Inzaghi, because his team conceded an awful lot of really good chances tonight, and on another night those would have gone the other way. And if Lazio had been more clinical, as they should have done, then this game would have been beyond doubt before half time. So that's all it really is. I mean, it always comes back to this discussion about the big games and Lazio's problem in the big games. And before, Inzaghi's talked about small margins being an issue with these results, being the difference between getting a result and not is just these small margins. And that's it, isn't it? Looking at the Lazio tonight, 56% possession, 16 attempts on goal. If you're only going to score 1 goal from that, then you've only got yourselves to blame, really.
Yeah, Lazio had many chances, and especially I thought that if you score in the first 10, 15 minutes when Lazio was dominating the match, then we would watch a completely different match. But the problem is, you have to take the chances. And to be honest, this was a very important weekend for Lazio, because you play against AC Milan. If you win, you put them far behind you, and Roma surprisingly lost against Udinese, so you had a chance to put Roma 6 points behind you, and instead you're still there. To be true, at a certain point you were with Milan ahead, and you back in the 5th place instead of being still in the Champions League spot. So at the end you cannot complain that much. But I really think you had a big chance tonight, and you didn't take it.
Definitely, but look, I mean, it's a big chance missed, but we're still talking about. We're all very disappointed because of the fact that Lazio didn't get 3 points from the game they should have done, but we are still talking about Lazio dominating a game against Milan. So the performance, the level of performance was good, and on another day the result would have come with it, just not today. And there's one comment we got on Twitter that I wanted to pick up on to kind of move this in a slightly different direction, which is Christopher Thomas saying, I still think we can achieve a top 4 spot Although it'll be simply luck that will get us there because we don't play like a top four club, unfortunately. I don't know how much more I can keep myself positive this season. I mean, come on, this is a let's let me put it this way. Lazio are fourth right now after 13 games. Okay, only 1 point clear of Milan when it could have been more. I get that. 4 points clear of Roma. But we've already played all the big clubs. So the really crucial part is coming up. Really, to be fourth, having already got through the hardest games, is already a big box ticked. And now Lazio have, before the winter break, Chievo, Sampdoria, Atalanta, Cagliari, Bologna, Torino. Some difficult games in there, but all of them winnable games. All of them games Lazio will go into as the favourite for. So a performance like tonight and a result like tonight, I don't think, although it's not what we were wanting, I don't think it's in any way a kind of signal that Lazio aren't going to be a top four contender this season, because we're in the top four and we're about to enter a really good run of fixtures. I don't know, is it just me?
I have to be honest, before the goal of Correa, I was thinking that the race for the Champions League was pretty much over, because losing against this AC Milan was unacceptable in a certain way. If your team is fighting for the Champions League, with the draw, things have changed. I agree that this was probably the best performance of Lazio against a top team. So there are a lot of positive things to take. And as you were mentioning, the fixture for Lazio till January are pretty much positive, and especially because next weekend there is Roma-Inter and Milan-Parma. So a lot of contenders will lose points because they play against. And Inter is playing against Juventus afterwards and then against Napoli. So, they have tough matches. Roma still have to play against Juventus. So there's a lot of things to be positive. What I'm a little bit concerned is that the January transfer market is coming along. And even though Milan has big problem with fair play, they were already talking about transfer market and signing players, which concern me a lot, because I don't think they should be able to do it. But if they do, things will change, because Milan can get players that will make the team better. And so this could change things.
Yeah, but they're going to waste all their money on Ibrahimovic. So I think that we're in a good position. Yeah, I know what you mean about the January market can change things, but I don't think Milan or really any other club that will be challenging us for a top four spot is really in a position to go out and spend heaps of money in January. Inter and Milan obviously both have financial fair play regulations to look after. And Roma already spent a lot of money in the summer, and I can't imagine them really doing the same thing again. The other thing is that, obviously this run of fixtures that I just mentioned up until January is quite a kind one. But on top of that, the European games don't matter anymore. That's such a good position to be in at this point. We're still fourth after the international break in November, and we've got a good run of league games, and we don't really have to worry about our European games, whereas Milan still have to take their remaining two Europa League games seriously. I just got their group up, and Betis are top on 8 points, and then Milan and Olympiacos are both on 7. So, their European ambitions are still going to have to take that very seriously. So, yeah, I think it's a good position to be in, and we can still be very confident. And look, the thing we keep going back to as well is that this Lazio team, the part of that comment was that it's not playing like a top four team. But I think, that you can be encouraged by that. Lazio haven't been playing like a top four team so far this season. I would agree with that. But we are in the top four. And this team still has another level to go to, another gear or 2 gears to go into this season, which I'm convinced they will eventually. So yeah, I think that to be in the top four despite having not played particularly well is probably a blessing in disguise.
Well, the question here is, will Lazio play like last season again? I mean, we're talking about Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic in particular, and it's not 6 months, but we are nearly half of the season, and we still didn't see them play at the same level of last year. Now there's a question if they will ever be able to play the last year performance. Now, I believe Milinkovic-Savic, he's such a quality player that he will be able to reach that level again. I'm not sure, especially thinking about the injury situation of Luis Alberto, if the Spanish player will be able to shine again like last year this season.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I do think that we'll get to the old Milinkovic-Savic back eventually. I was hoping that would be tonight. I think he put in a decent performance tonight. And if Immobile had been one step backwards, he would have scored a fantastic goal tonight, because, you know, the run he went on to set up that goal, and the finish as well, actually. That would have been an absolutely tremendous goal if it had stood. So yeah, I'm hoping he can get back to his best soon, and then we've got Immobile scoring goals, which is always the important thing, and the rest of the team, even if Alberto isn't shining as much as we would like him to, I think Correa's showing enough promise to be able to take that mantle. And don't forget as well, although there have been some players, although those guys, Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic, haven't been at the level they were last season, there have also been players who have been above the level they were at last season. The biggest example, I suppose, being Felipe Caicedo, who's now seen as a real option up front. But also, I think even Patrick, I think his performances of this season have actually put Marisic's position under a bit of a threat as well. So it's not always negative.
Yes, I agree on this point, and I'm still surprised we still didn't see enough of Berisha. I said it a lot of time. I think he's going to be the best signing of the summer, but if he doesn't play or hardly play, we are complaining about Correa playing not that much, but compared to Berisha, he played a lot. So that's one of the things that a little bit surprised me. I believe he's going to play on Thursday, but as it's not a very important match for us, will that make an impact? Will that make a difference for Simone Inzaghi, or he won't care, if he's playing well or bad?
I don't know. It's quite hard to say what we're going to take from this game on Thursday. I suppose we'll have to find out on Thursday. But that's why, we already talked about this during the international break show, but I think it's a good opportunity to actually try out something completely different, be that a new formation, a 4-3-3 or something, or players who we haven't seen anything of, like Alessandro Rossi or Pedro Neto. And because I don't think if we go to Apollon and play 3-5-1-1 and Correa starts behind Caicedo and we get a 1-1 draw, I don't think we're really learning anything. And it's not often you get competitive matches during a season where you have an opportunity to actually be a bit experimental and do things you wouldn't normally have the courage to do, without a risk of, without really risking anything. And that's the opportunity the Lazio have here.
Yeah, especially because the season is very long, so playing against the starter, it would be a risk of getting them injured or getting them tired for a match that really counts very little. So if there's a chance to give a chance to those players who haven't played that much this season, or even who didn't play the second, like Alessandro Rossi or Pedro Neto, that's the perfect chance. We were talking about the first match of Coppa Italia, but this could be another very good chance for them to start.
Yeah, I still can't really imagine Inzaghi doing it. I think it can make as much logic and sense as you want, but I do think he's not quite. I don't know. He's not adventurous enough in my mind to really go for something like that. I mean, I do think we'll still get to see something like Cataldi back in the team, Mogia getting a start, Bastos will play. It'll be the guys we haven't seen much of this season. But by doing that, you're not really. It's nothing too exciting. I mean, I would expect Lukaku or Dermisi will be playing. I don't know which one of them because you can't really play both of them. So, yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity for something that adventurous. But I don't know. Can you imagine Inzaghi actually going to go ahead with that?
It's going to be very difficult. Maybe Alessandro Rossi, yes. I don't know. I don't understand why, but I don't see Pedro Neto starting, even though, again, with the national team, he has been amazing. So I'm really curious, but no.
I have a feeling we might get to see Rossi off the bench, but I just don't think he'll start him. I think he'll start Caicedo. Yeah, and like I said, it's a bit frustrating if he does because I don't think we're going to learn anything new from seeing Caicedo starting up front again because we already know exactly what he's capable of.
Yes, it's true, but at the same time, thinking about Caicedo, if next Sunday, if Thursday Caicedo doesn't start and Alessandro Rossi starts, do you think he's going to be happy or he's going to complain?
No. I mean, the thing that Caicedo's always been praised for has been his attitude. And I think that's rubbed off on the fans this season because his performances have started to improve as well.
Sorry.
A nice character and he doesn't ever give up and, those kind of attributes that the Lazio fans always take to. So I don't think by dropping him you would upset him too much necessarily. But then again, he is a guy who you could say he deserves time on the pitch because he has improved this season and, this is a chance to give him time on the pitch. So maybe they should take it.
Well, we're going to see. I really hope there's going to be a massive rotation in the next European League match. We're going to find out next Thursday. But again, I feel a little bit disappointed about the Lazio more than the Lazio performance, the Lazio result. As you were saying, Lazio had many chances but didn't finish it. And do you think Inzaghi could have risked a little bit more in the second half instead of before making those substitution? Or there weren't many options there to change the match. Alistair, are you there?
Hello, yes. Sorry, I dropped off there. I do think things went a bit flat in the second half and for a while, and Milan were quite happy doing what they were doing, and Lazio couldn't really work out a way through. So, he did bring on Correa. I think Correa, Caicedo, and Lukaku are all guys who offer different things and ask different questions of that. A Milan defence that was very much a kind of makeshift defence. So I don't want to criticise his changes too much, to be honest. I don't know how much difference it would have made if we'd seen Berisha in midfield or whoever it had been, but in the end, his substitutions did pay off. And I don't think Inzaghi really deserves criticism for the way he's set out his team or anything else tonight, because, like I said before, I think that they made enough chances to win the game. They dominated the game. They did pretty much everything he could have asked them to do, apart from just put the ball in the net.
Which is quite important, though.
It's you could say arguably the most important. Yeah.
Again, I feel like he's struggling a little bit in picking the players, especially in midfield. I can understand he's going to always the same players to give them confidence, but now that you have so many options, maybe he should be considering more alternatives. Like again, Berisha for me should be considered a starter, but like this, Murja is not playing at all. So I don't know. He's very good, for example, on the wingers. So, like Patrick was a big surprise, as you were saying. This season he's playing real well. But yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for Murja, and I was really looking forward to see Berisha playing in a key match, and it looks like I'll have to wait again.
Yeah, I think he's been a bit unlucky because he has been impressive, but at the same time, Marco Parolo's come into a great run of form. Milinkovic isn't going to be dropped in a hurry and has also shown improvements as well. And, for Berisha to get in from the start, he's going to have to oust one of those two. So I think for the big games, I would have been surprised to see Berisha starting today. But I think that he will get his chance. He's already getting his chances off the bench quite often and in kind of rotated teams. So I think it's only a matter of time.
We're gonna see, Alistair. We're gonna see. It was funny what happened at the end with Inzaghi sent off, and he said, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm staying."
Yeah. Well, even even after he did get sent off, I mean, I don't know if you could see this on the TV screen or not, but there's the kind of stairs that lead down into the tunnel, and eventually he got sent away down the stairs, but he was actually just standing at the kind of halfway up the stairs, kind of peeking out from the top. So he's basically trying to hide from the referee by standing on this halfway down the stairs. But yeah, I mean, he was getting really worked up today. I mean, he always gets worked up during games anyway. But I think this is one of the most animated I've ever seen Inzaghi on the touchline during a match. I also thought it was hilarious, the idea of Luca Banti, the ref, sending him off because he was outside the technical area. Because I don't think during a game I've ever seen him inside the technical area. He's basically on the pitch the entire match. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, and to be honest, even Gattuso was often outside. So well, I said I'm not talking about Banti. Anyway, I can understand why he was agitated. Lazio's playing well finally against a big team, but it's not winning, and he can get frustrated after a performance like that, especially because he's like the 12th man on the pitch, you have to say, most of the time. He's running like them. So it's nice to have a manager like that. The funny thing is, after in the press conference, he said he didn't understand that the referee sent away. But if you see the video, he's saying, "No, I'm not going away." So he knew what was happening. He simply didn't want to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he is genuinely a 12th man. I mean, he's right there the whole way through the game, pulling players into position, telling people where to be, what to do, what to look out for. So, yeah, he's an incredible presence, really, to have on the touchline there. And never afraid to make his feelings known.
Yeah, I think he's like... he makes this team play better with how he lived the match. He gives the team strength and help them in the difficult times. So I really think that he can make mistakes in substitution and things like that. But I still believe Inzaghi is one of the best managers in Serie A, and still it's a big advantage for Lazio to having him, even though as all of them make mistakes. Let's not forget that Napoli today draw at home against Chievo. So, every team eventually has bad performance. So, and you cannot blame the manager all the time. Sometimes it's the wrong day of the players that they perform badly.
Yeah, there was actually a piece in Gazzetta dello Sport earlier this week where they did a kind of mock-up of the coaches in Serie A with the best average points, and Inzaghi's actually third in all of Serie A behind Allegri and Ancelotti. As a Serie A coach, I mean, I think he's got an average of, I think it's something like 1.8 points. Gattuso was not too far behind him, but has obviously had quite a fair fewer games in charge. So yeah, I mean, yeah, people are always entitled to their opinions, obviously, but you can never question Inzaghi's commitment and his passion for it, and I think that's something that you shouldn't undervalue as well. He talked after the game about how happy he was. He wasn't happy at all about the result, despite the equaliser, but he did say that he was happy to see that his players never gave up until the last, which is a bit of a cliche, but at the same time, he is right. We have seen this team before not really look like it's that interest or that it has any belief in getting back into games when they're up against it. And I do think that actually, you know, if you look over to the side of the pitch and you see this guy losing his mind, then that must be able to spur you on as well, perhaps.
Stefan Scarpulla, to wrap up this episode, said it was a really opportunity to create some space between us and those fighting for the fourth spot. That being said, has it stopped raining since AM moved to Rome? I don't think so.
It was really nice when I first got here. It's been a bit not so good since, though. Yeah, it's been a bit of an issue. I mean, today, thankfully, in the end, it didn't really play that much of a part in the match or anything whatsoever, because it stopped raining more or less as soon as the game started or just before. So that was a bit of a relief, but it was an absolute nightmare getting to the game, and in the hours leading up it was seriously heavy rainfall. There were traffic accidents, there were roads shut off, there were all sorts of problems, and I was worried that might impact on the crowds today, you know, like it did against Inter. Inter was a different kind of thing. I mean, that was a whole complete disaster, that whole thing, but in the end, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, it was a really good crowd. I'd say one of the biggest of the season so far, definitely. And yeah, it was really good to see, actually, that a really good number of fans in the stadium, very loud, great atmosphere. It was a good away end. It was very full as well. And yeah, it just made for a really good spectacle. And it was a bit of a relief to see that the weather didn't play a part in that, despite, maybe it is my influence that's bringing it here.
You feel a little bit at home, right? With all this rain.
Yeah, exactly. It's welcoming, really.
Well, to wrap it up, Alistair, so you're still convinced Lazio can make it for the fourth spot? You are the positive guy.
Well, look, I'm not convinced. I'm never going to be convinced with Lazio. All I'm saying is that I think we're in a very good position still. I think having got through all our big games, to still be in fourth place at the end of that, and with a decent run of fixtures ahead of us and the European stuff already in the bag, I think that's a pretty good situation. And to be honest, I think most of us would have taken that situation if offered it at the start of the season. So I know there's a long, long way to go in this season still. We're only 13 games in. But for now, obviously, we would have loved a win tonight and deserved to get the win tonight. But it's not the end of the world. We'll get through it, and if we can go on a good run of form now, then we'll see where we are in January.
I think it's very important the next couple of matches, because after this draw, if you win the coming match, then you're fine. But if you start dropping points, and it's not going to be easy. Chievo just got a draw against Napoli away, so they're starting to click. So it's not going to be easy, and it's never easy playing against small teams in Serie A. But it's key for Lazio to finish strong this year before the Napoli and Juventus game come along. So I think that will be really important for the final result. But again, today was a match Lazio should have won, and that would have made a huge difference, seeing what Roma has after the loss of Roma and obviously playing against AC Milan. But you have to admit that with Lazio it's never easy. It's never an easy ride. It's always complicated. I just hope this year is not going to end like last year, finishing all in the last match and with a disappointing result.
Yeah, I think we've had enough of that.
Yeah, but it's a little bit like the rain in Rome. People had enough.
Exactly.
If you don't have a stat, I think we can close it here.
Well, one thing worth mentioning, it is a kind of a stat, but it was Lulic's 293rd game tonight, which has moved him into the top 10 Lazio players ever for appearances, level with Tommaso Rocchi. So, well done, Lulic. He's probably going to move quite far up that list eventually if he keeps going. The only other player who's active on the list is Radu, who's, where is he? Number 7, 325 games. So yeah, two current Lazio players in the top 10 of all-time appearances kind of surprised me, actually. There you go.
Well, Radu played pretty much all his career here, so...
Well, yeah.
That's not a big... So he got injured a lot of matches, so he could have been in a higher position there. I don't think that both have a chance to reach Favalli, though.
Well, it looks unlikely. I don't know, Radu maybe. I mean, he's said repeatedly he wants to end his career at the club. At the moment, he's one of the few kind of undroppable players in the team, really. And considering, he's 32, so he's got a few years left in him still. And looking at the list, he's 76 games behind Favalli, which is basically 2.5 seasons worth of football. I think he could maybe manage. We'll see.
He has to play a lot of matches still. Anyway, yeah, it was interesting and an interesting start. Thanks, Alistair. And thanks, everybody, for listening to this podcast. Again, you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, on Spreaker, on Spotify, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And again, if you like us and want to support us, we have our Patreon page where you can become membership. Thank you very much, Alistair, and we're going to talk soon. Bye, guys.